Welcome to Star Wars Collecting Cosmos. This is your host, Ryan Bizey. This is going to be a little bit different show from our normal shows. Our normal shows will be back. I know we've been on hiatus for a little while. I've got an idea of going back and looking at the Topps Galaxy cards from the 90s, which I thought would be very fun. But it's been really hard to get Amy, Marjorie, and I together at the same time to be able to record a show. I thought I'd go ahead and use the show name for right now for a little pet project of my own. This will be broadcast not only through wherever you listen to this through podcasting, but I'll be posting this as a video on YouTube as well. And the reason for it being a video as well is I'm going to be talking about things that I want you to see pictures of with this. In future Collecting Cosmos episodes, I may do the same thing as well, just so I can show you some of that cool stuff that we see, and you don't have to just go, okay, I gotta find the Facebook page, okay, now where are those pictures? But if you watch the video on YouTube, you'd be able to see exactly what it is we're talking about as we talk about it. If you're interested, that will be on my YouTube page, which is just under MRBYZ. That's Mr. Bizey, MRBYZ. I have several review videos already up there from several different products from Japan and Hasbro and all sorts of stuff like that. Anyway, for this show, it's kind of something new, like I said, I wanted to do. And for today's show, it will just be me. In future shows, I hope to have a guest host with me, somebody else to talk about this. And while this may seem like something we could cover on the normal Galaxy of Toys page, I just kind of felt like I wanted to run with this as it's more topical, it's more now, and that sort of thing. So basically what I'm going to get into is figures that have not been made for different lines that should be made. And, you know, I've done some research on this. I've gone through and found figures that I feel should be made for some different lines, but you may have ideas of what you want to add. And I invite you, if you're listening to this, if you're watching it on YouTube, to comment, to send me messages about what you think we should do, or what do you think other figures that should be made, or other items that should be made that I missed. Did I miss something? I'm sure I did. I tried to do a pretty thorough search on this and go through things, but that's why I want future guest hosts to kind of help me shoot things off with, and that they can have their own ideas. I'm looking at this as more of an interactive with the community type of thing. Is this going to result in anything being made? Probably not, but I also looked at the recent fan voting for the vintage collection coming next year, and I noticed just a lot of people just didn't seem to know what's been out there before. I know some people are looking for figures that they never got, they'd like to have re-released, and I'm kind of going with this as these are figures that have never been released, or maybe figures that are in bad need of an update. So I just kind of want to go through this. I'm going to go movie by movie, and today I'm actually going to start with probably everybody's least favorite stuff, but it was somewhere to start where I figured I wouldn't have a whole lot of argument on it. But I will start with the 6-inch Black Series for the Phantom Menace. I started here. Number one, it has the least amount of figures made for this film in the 6-inch Black Series. We've only had, well, really one so far in Darth Maul, and we have another coming in Qui-Gon Jinn. But that's it. 2 figures for the entire movie. I mean, even Attack of the Clones has 4 different clone troopers to go in it. So with that, I will go through each one of these and kind of explain why I think it is deserving. I looked at the Black Series as it should be main characters or troopers. That's basically what we've been getting from Hasbro on these figures, and I was kind of trying to keep that basic idea going along with the occasional iconic character or something from that movie. So I have a few as we go down through these movies that are a little more iconic that maybe people would love to see made, that maybe not a main character or a trooper, but would go along with that. So in the Phantom Menace, what has not been made? Well, we're getting Qui-Gon Jinn. Why not his Padawan, Obi-Wan Kenobi? Goes throughout the entire movie. He kills Darth Maul, or we thought he killed Darth Maul. Obviously, if you've watched Clone Wars and Rebels, you know that didn't happen when we thought it did. But he goes through the whole movie. We do not have a Padawan Obi-Wan version from the Phantom Menace in 6-inch form. I'd love to see him come with his overcloak. It looks like the Qui-Gon Jinn coming up will have that cloak, which we have not been getting with all of our Jedi, so it'd be nice to see that come about. Going on with other figures that can be made, obviously Queen Amidala needs to be made. No Padme, or Amidala, however you want to look at it, figure has been made in the 6-inch Black Series. This is sorely missed in there. I have two I think should be made from the Phantom Menace. I think they're the most iconic outfits for her in the movie. The first is her red theed dress that we see at the beginning of the movie. You know, it has the lights in the bottom of the dress. She first contacts Newt Gendry in this dress. It's much more of an iconic outfit for her. So I think this is one that should be made. I don't know if we should go with cloth goods for the dress or if it should be plastic. What do you think? Which way should it go? Because I could see plastic probably looking better, but cloth might be an interesting way to go, maybe as an exclusive somewhere with actual lights in it, who knows. But it would be a cool figure to have, I believe. The other one, of course, would be the Senate address. That kind of sounds weird, but you know, where she addresses the Senate about the invasion of Naboo, that big ornate gown with the big almost pillars coming off of her hair. It's a very iconic. If people said, you know, Padme or Amidala from episode 1, this is probably the outfit they would picture for her. Moving on from there, obviously we need Anakin. Young Anakin is in this movie. He doesn't show up to the middle of the movie, of course. I see him as being kind of an action figure. He'd be smaller than the other figures, but could come with a bunch of accessories, like his backpack, maybe some tools, and his pod racing helmet. Or maybe a separate head with the helmet, and you could switch those out. That would be very nice to have this figure. I don't think it should be just by itself as that small figure. I think it needs to have the extra accessories at the same price as the rest of these. And that would kind of give us the ultimate Anakin. We'd have a bunch of stuff. I don't feel the need to have necessarily the Jedi robes Anakin from the end of the movie. I guess it's a possibility. Maybe it's exclusive or a multi-pack somewhere. But for kind of the single release, just a standard Anakin, like I said, with backpack, with the helmet, and maybe with some tools or something like that. I thought there could be a 2-pack, though, of both Watto and Sebulba. Again, both of them are very small. I don't see Sebulba necessarily getting a whole lot of articulation, so Hasbro can save money with the articulation on that. Watto doesn't necessarily need a whole lot of articulation on that. Does he need articulated knees? I mean, yeah, obviously the wings and maybe the arms, but as far as like the elbows. But both of these figures are much smaller, and I know I have the 12-inch series from episode 1. I know they released both of these figures as separate figures from the 12-inch line, still at $20 back then. So could they go with each of them separately? I wouldn't leave it past them. But I'd like to see it as a 2-pack, but I'd like to see both of these characters made. Obviously, Watto owned Anakin and is an important character, and Sebulba, being the pod racer he goes against, is a, you know, seems like almost the middle third of the movie is about Anakin versus Sebulba. So I think Sebulba is definitely needed in there. It would give us a different kind of 6-inch Black Series style figure as well. One I'm really surprised they've never made is the Battle Droid. It seems like a no-brainer to me, because you can obviously just repaint it for the red Battle Droid for Attack of the Clones, which I'll talk about on a future episode. They could do tons of articulation on it. The plastic would be thicker than we had in the 3 3/4 inch. So hopefully it would be able to stand up and have nice articulation. I know we got some great articulation on some 3 3/4 inch battle droids that made it fold all the way up. Obviously, I'd like to see that here. They've released battle droids in some of the Japanese lines. It's in the Bandai model kits. I believe SH Figure Arts has done one. So I'm kind of surprised we've never seen a Black Series battle droid. This is one that, you know, they're starting to do vehicles. Maybe they could do a battle droid with Stap. I know in episode 1, Stap vehicle may not be the best seller out there, but it would be kind of cool to see. It's not a bad vehicle, but it's not as iconic as, you know, a land speeder or something like that. Next up, I don't know, he's one of my favorite characters as far as the look of him, and that's Newt Gendry. I know a lot of people don't like the Neomodians, but I think Newt Gendry is a very cool figure. I've always been disappointed that we never got a 12-inch version of him. Sideshow's never done anything with him. Just all the kind of gowns on him, his headdress, I think it'd be a very cool figure to have, and I'd love to see it in 6-inch form. I know it's not an full of action type figure. I don't think he really even had a gun in his hand. Maybe he could come with an accessory of a Palpatine hologram or something like that. Sorry, Darth Sidious hologram. And, you know, it would be an interesting figure to have in there, a very cool looking figure. Maybe I'm alone on this, let me know. But I think Newt Gendry should be involved. And I know I'm talking about main characters, and, you know, there's that big Gungan in the room here of Jar Binks. And I know a lot of us don't care for Jar Jar. If Marjorie were on the show, she'd totally say, yes, this needs to be made, I'm sure. And I've got to agree. Jar Jar is a part of the Phantom Menace. Like it or not, he's a main character in the film. And it'd be very hard to see a line of figures done for the Phantom Menace in the 6-inch form without a Jar Jar in there. It'd be sorely kind of missed in there. Well, I don't know about sorely missed, but say you're doing a diorama, you know, he's in a lot of scenes. You kind of need him in there. And I'm sure customizers could have a field day with it as well. So as far as main characters, yeah, Jar Jar should be in there. I know it probably wouldn't be the best-selling character. I'm sure Hasbro would not be really wanting to push a Jar Jar. Maybe do a multi-pack with him in there. I don't know. But he should be made, in my opinion, as well as Boss Nass. Again, I don't know how people feel about Boss Nass. I thought it was a more interesting character than Jar Jar. I know his facial tics and, you know, blubbering around or whatever you want to call it, gets on people's nerves. But he has a kind of cool robe. They did 2 3 3/4-inch versions of him, as well as a 12-inch version back in the day. And I don't know. I think it's an interesting figure. He plays a part in the movie in several places, not only in the beginning, but in the end, helps bring the Naboo and the Gungans together and all that. So I think a 6-inch figure of Boss Nass is deserving. I know it's probably low on a lot of people's lists, but I'm going through figures that should be made by each movie. I'm not saying when they should be made, but these are figures that's kind of like a checklist. Have they made this? Have they made this? And all in that, it's like C-3PO from the Phantom Menace. I know we've gotten now 2 3POs in the Black Series with the Force Awakens Red Arm version and kind of the regular original trilogy version. But C-3PO didn't have all of his coverings, as R2 told him his parts were showing. I've always found this version of 3PO very interesting. We did get a 12-inch talking version of this back in '99. And we've only really gotten one version of this figure in the 3 3/4-inch. But at this scale, at the 6-inch scale, you can put a lot of detail into it. The paint apps, I know Hasbro's talked about paint apps recently being more costly. I don't know if it'd have that many paint apps. This is a lot of the same colors. It would be a unique, different figure. I would like to see C-3PO from the Phantom Menace done. And the next 2 are the same person, and yet I feel it does deserve 2 figures. And that's Darth Sidious and, sorry, not Chancellor yet, Senator Palpatine. Darth Sidious obviously is the Phantom Menace. He is the person who the name of the movie is calling. And you could have in dark robes. I know a lot of people saying, well, we've already gotten an Emperor Palpatine. Well, he's a little different. Darth Sidious does look different than Emperor Palpatine. His face is a little different. And, you know, we had different figures from this in the 3 3/4-inch line. I would like to see a 6-inch form of this, maybe with the cloth robes like they did with Palpatine. In fact, they probably should do it. If you're going to have any articulation under those robes, it should be cloth. But a Senator Palpatine also should be done. He plays a pretty major role in the movie, as he does become Chancellor by the end of the movie. Lots of speaking parts. You could probably utilize the same face or head sculpt from this with the Darth Sidious. Maybe it would be an exclusive 2-pack somewhere. But I think both of these probably should be made. He's a main character in the film. He's technically the main bad guy who's pulling the strings in the background in really both versions. Next, I have the Khorasan or Senate Royal Guard, and the ones in blue. You can see a little bit of their face. This was a cool figure. I remember back in '99 when these came out. It was really neat to see these figures. It was kind of like the old Royal Guards, only it's in blue, and he's got kind of a plume on his helmet, and you could see a little bit of his face. He's not such a bad guy here, right? They could probably utilize things from the Emperor's Royal Guard to make this, so they can use existing parts to go into this to make it more cost-effective. But I would like to see this figure. It is kind of a trooper, which goes along the idea that we see a lot in these. Finally, this would be some sort of deluxe pack or something, but the Destroyer droid. These are obviously all over the film. They play a main piece as a soldier or droid, whatever you want to call it, that the Jedi go against, that the Gungans go against. It's needed. I can't see this as a regular 1999 6-inch Black Series figure. I could see it as more of a deluxe version, which I know they haven't done anything like that. Or, you know, Chewbacca and Vader were much taller. Maybe with a Destroyer droid, they could fold it up and put it in there. But I do think it should be foldable into the ball. Now, those of you who are longtime collectors know that Hasbro really did do a 6-inch version of this figure back in the day. They did 3 figures of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Maul, and the Destroyer Droid. And while these are 6-inch figures, they're not the exact detail. The Destroyer Droid could probably work with a 6-inch line pretty easily, and it did fold up into a ball. I know a lot of people said it didn't transform very well. I have 2 of them, one that I put in a ball and one that's as the droid, and I kept the one in the ball as a ball. So whether it comes out of that ball, I'm not totally sure. But I could see it as 6-inch form with today's technology, maybe making this a better figure, doing a proper 6-inch figure of the Destroyer Droid. So those are all the Episode 1 6-inch Black Series figures that I think should be made. Is there something that I missed? Is there something that I said that you're like, heck no, that should never be made as a Black Series? Ryan, you're an idiot for saying so. Let me know. Put it in the comments. If you're watching the YouTube video, put it in the comments below. If you are listening to this on the podcast feed, go ahead and write me a message. You can go to the Star Wars Collecting Cosmos Facebook page, send me a message there. Look me up at on Facebook with Ryan Bisey. Just send me a message. I'd love to hear from you if you have differing opinions, or if you agree. If you're like, yeah, Ryan, you got it right on. These are the figures we definitely should see. Then let me know that too. I'd love to hear that I made good decisions on these. I tried to be very thorough with this. Like I said, go with the same things. There were some figures, it's like, could we have a Captain Panaka maybe? And I was like, Panaka is, he's such a downer in that movie anyway. All he ever does is tell everybody things they can't do. And, they only did one version of him 3 3/4 inch. They never updated him. I just not sure that would be a good selling figure. Now, I know I argued that even though Jar Jar wouldn't be a good selling figure, that they probably should still make him. I think Panaka is enough of extra character. You don't necessarily need him, along with people like Rick Orlee. I know Tom Burgess would love to have a 6-inch Rick Orlee. But, a lot of those figures, even Naboo soldiers, I guess the garb on them is just kind of a little boring to want to buy a bunch of those. But am I wrong? Or do you think we should have all these Naboo guards and advisors and all that? I'm sure Jason would love to have C.O. Bibble in the 6-inch line too. That's one of his focus, Lobot and C.O. Bibble. But please, let me know. I'd love to hear from you what you think about this. Going forward, I'm going to try and find some co-hosts to come on with me and talk. We'll go back and forth about some of these. Hopefully they'll have things that I don't think of, and we can talk about what shouldn't be done. But my next set that I would like to go through would be the 6-inch Black Series for Attack of the Clones. So thank you for listening or for watching, and until next time, yub nub.
Chaka Louie, Naki Mani Wea.